Hello, welcome to Industry Reactions. Industry Reactions is a weekly briefing on industry events, changes, and future trends that impact your business. I'm your host, Rick Honer, and joining me this week is special guest CJ Munko from ChemPoint. Welcome, CJ.
Hey, thanks, Rick.
You can find Industry Reactions on YouTube, LinkedIn, and as a podcast. For those watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and smash that like button. We plan on discussing issues that impact the global industry and help you uncover new opportunities. We hope this will provide market intelligence that will keep you ahead of changing conditions.
All right, so let's jump into this here with just a kind of overall look on the specialty chemical markets in the U.S. right now, how things are trending. So looks like last month alone, there was a 0.8% growth. This is pointing towards, we're slowly recovering from the winter storms that affected us a couple months back. And even though there were different industries that expanded and some were down, it looks like on a year-over-year basis, the specialty chemical segments as a whole are up 13.3%. So that is a good indication of the overall trending recovery that we're seeing. And it looks like overall volumes are at 107.1% of above average levels compared to last year's April. And that equates to an astonishing amount of actually 7.31 billion pounds. So we're still seeing some ups and downs, but overall, it looks like the specialty chemical market is trending upwards, which is good to see.
Yeah, I think that's really good, and you start seeing it in results, some upgrades, especially in specialty chemical producers. So a year-over-year basis, that's not a big surprise. What'll be interesting to see is how we do compared to 2019.
Exactly, and one thing I've noticed too, and it's not so much production of the chemicals itself that is a hindrance in some of these segments, but it's actually finding things to put the chemicals in, packaging. So I think these numbers might actually be understated based on some of the packaging shortages we've seen. So
yeah, for sure. All right, and in a similar vein, petrochemical firms and refiners were hit hard just as everyone else was by the pandemic. But as weather warned, vaccination spread and consumers left their homes looking to spend pandemic savings and stimulus checks, the demand for plastics, gasoline, and other those products really surged. Prices for commodities from oil to copper to chemicals climbed steadily in the last couple months. That's benefited petrochemical companies, and recent earnings reports have shown growth in volumes and revenues. So this is really no surprise. I mean, the every week we're talking about this. Things have continued to improve. Demand is back, and supply is short. Probably most importantly, which means prices are skyrocketing. And for producers, that means their earnings are lovely at this point when they were really ugly last year.
Yeah, for sure makes up for that dip last year. And it's interesting, this petrochemical issue, I guess, that happened due to this freeze, not only affects the overall market segments we talked about earlier, but it's really, I don't think people realized how far out the fingers were spread when it comes to one industry and how much it, I guess, bleeds into others and affects others as well.
Yeah, and this is the early indicator for inflation. The CPI number was incredibly high, 4.5%, but this is the bleeding edge. Chemicals is where it starts. So as pricing is going up here, the rest of the market will very shortly start to see the inflationary pressure.
Mm-hmm. And more on the oil aspect here, kind of funny how the first few topics are all central around the crude oil. But on a positive note, the U.S. as a whole has added more than 100 oil rigs so far this year, and that brings the total oil rig count to 455 U.S. operated oil refineries and rigs. And so that really speaks to how we're doing as a nation in terms of oil and gas production. It's been steadily climbing in the recent months after bottoming out last August. And with the rollout of the vaccines and local economies, opening up travel, it's actually helping support that production because demand for the oil, crude oil, petroleum products like gasoline, jet fuel, that's also going up at the same time that we're increasing production. So those are some positive notes of how we're getting those increasing numbers across the market and coming out of that slump that we saw last year. So that upward growth, it's supporting that.
All right. And the next story that we're talking about is similar, is rail car volume. So during the week ending May 15th, rail car traffic volume in North America increased 16.3% year over year. So that's a pretty big increase, as we've been talking around, similar to the other figures. On a 4-week basis, volume increased 13.5% from 2020, but only up a little under 2% from 2019. So, in short, rail volume's up year over year, but still struggling on a year-to-date basis to actually achieve 2019 levels.
Yeah, do you think those numbers in terms of struggling are still being affected by the, I guess, kind of traffic jam that was caused from that freeze? Because a lot of the rail system was shut down when that storm hit, right?
Yeah, I'm sure that takes a while to move through the system. It was a snarl, you're right. I think actually still some of the shortage in volume is from a supply standpoint, because not all of that production capacity is up to 100%. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of that's still from supply.
Kind of a hand-in-hand thing. I guess on to the next one here. So shout out to my alma mater, Washington State University. It's cool to see them hopping into the R&D field and coming out with some innovations. One of the things that they've developed, it looks like they're found a way to convert plastics into ingredients for jet fuel as well as other products. So this process, I guess, makes it easier to reuse plastics. They were able to convert 90% of plastic to jet fuel and other hydrocarbon products within an hour. And that process is far more effective than other, I guess, recycling methods across the US. It turns out that only about 9% of the plastic produced in the US, or used in the US rather, is recycled every year. So finding another outlet for this stuff that likely ends up in just the trash, garbage, landfills or the oceans, it's kind of cool to see an alternate use for it, and also good to see good things coming out of WSU.
Yeah, and for those of you that are familiar with WSU, you'll know that the real reason driving this project was trying to figure out what the heck to do with all those Dixie cups coming out of Greek Row every week.
I would say, all right. I would say that might have been a driving factor, but it was very low on the totem pole in terms of why they wanted to do this. I think there was a bigger picture there, but
okay,
I'll hear you on that one.
All right, so into the food arena. So Carry Ingredients will develop some new innovation and technology, and actually build a center for excellence in Queensland, Australia. The facility will act as the new headquarters for Carry in Australia and New Zealand, while its existing facility in Sydney will remain in place and house its R&D applications hub. The capabilities will include pilot plants, laboratories, tasting facilities, etc. And the new Australia and New Zealand Development Application Center in Brisbane will bring an end-to-end food innovation cycle under one roof. So pretty big change in investment for Carry.
Onto a different segment here, different marketplace. Company Henkel looks like they're investing more than $73.3 million to build an innovation center over in Shanghai, China. It's going to be a massive center, over 32,000 square meters, including both laboratories, R&D space, and also interactive areas where I guess visitors or customers can come in and kind of gain a more interactive experience. They feature something called an infinity room, and kind of encompassing into the structure of this overall facility some ideas behind the Henkel business model. An example of that is an engineered wood staircase that embodies Henkel's commitment to sustainability, and also an exhibition space that showcases their innovative technologies and specialized approach to product development. So it's kind of cool to see companies when they're making these new facilities, making them more, I guess, user-friendly, customer-centric, however you want to state that, but a place that people would like to go to and enjoy as an experience overall, as opposed to, I guess, more older fashioned, here's our warehouse, here's our production facility, and having it be kind of how things used to be, so to speak. So that's good to see.
Yeah, it's cool. An infinity room. I was thinking about that. Maybe we should make one of those at ChemPoint, but maybe have an infinity pool or something instead of a staircase, maybe for our work.
Yeah, maybe both. I mean, I know I could use an infinity pool after, what are they calling it? The COVID-19 that everyone's put on.
All right. So I think in the last story for today, Trinseo's in the news. They announced the sale of the synthetic rubber business to Synthos of Poland for just under $500 million. The deal is expected to close in 2022. Trinseo said in December it was considering the sale of the business, which primarily produces styrene butadiene rubber and emulsion styrene butadiene rubber. So Trinseo is among the world's major producers of styrene butadiene rubber products, with a significant position in Europe. The sale of that business will also give Trinseo more flexibility to acquire more businesses and develop organic growth projects. So pretty big change for the SBR arena.
Was it disclosed at all as to this, I guess, sale and acquisition on Syntheos's part? Is it being driven by Trinseo wanting to focus on a different area of the rubber space? Or
no, it doesn't actually talk about that. I'm not sure what was driving that. I know that the trend that we've seen in these spaces is getting out of the more commoditized type businesses to focus on specialties. I'm not sure if that's what's in Trinseo's playbook, but it wouldn't be too surprising if that was the driver.
Mm-hmm. I guess the overall thing here it's good to see is even through all this economic hardship and obviously the pandemic, things are still happening kind of in a normal sense of behind the scenes acquisitions of certain business segments, and it kind of points a picture as to the whole chemical market kind of operating as normal, which a lot of industries aren't able to do now, which is good to see as well.
Yeah, we've been waiting with held breath basically most of last year, and so it's good to see these things move forward and change. All right. That's it for this week's edition of Industry Reactions. We'll return next week with a fresh batch of news stories for you. Thanks for joining, CJ. Until next time, stay safe and stay sane.